A federal judge dismissed the gun case against Hunter Biden after President Joe Biden, his father, issued a sweeping pardon. Biden pardoned Hunter, who was convicted of tax evasion and federal gun charges. Hunter's sentencing was set to take place in a couple of weeks. Despite the repeated White House assurances that the president had no intentions of pardoning his son, the president announced Sunday evening that he had pardoned him. In the statement, he said, "Today I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchase, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions, but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties, are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. The charges in his cases came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Then a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed to by the Department of Justice unraveled in the courtroom, with a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's cases. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son. And that is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecutions. In trying to break Hunter, they tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career, I've followed a single principle: just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision." A sweeping pardon covers Hunter's convictions in 2 cases in Delaware and California, and any other, quote, offenses against the United States, which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. Okay, so predictably, Republicans lost their shit. I mean, they were just acting a fool. Oh my God, you had Scott Jennings from CNN talking about this administration has lied more than any other. You mean compared to the fool who you supported again and the 30,000 plus lies he told in those 4 years? Really? Then you have all of these people, including some Democrats. They, of course, oh my goodness, this is wrong, it's not right, all those different things. Let's keep in mind, Donald Trump pardoned Mike Flynn. He pardoned Paul Manafort, his campaign manager. Flynn lied to the FBI. Manafort was taking money from foreign entities. Then there was Roger Stone, who's just across the board a liar and a thief. Let's see. He also pardoned Charles Kushner. Who's Charles Kushner? The father of his son-in-law. What did he do? Well, was it tax evasion? Oh, what he also did was he hired a prostitute to sleep with his sister's husband, had it recorded, and sent the video to his sister, because he was pissed that his brother-in-law cooperated with fellow authorities who were investigating him. Homeboy didn't want to get hit with obstruction of justice, so he cooperated. Oh, that same Charles Kushner, Trump just appointed the United States ambassador to France. Oh, since we're talking about, this is nepotism, and the one that cracked me, I'm gonna get to this in a sec, but the one with the nepotism, it's like, oh, this is just wrong. It's nepotism. Okay. Are we gonna hear anything from any Republican about, Jared Kushner getting $2 billion from the Saudis after leaving the White House? You don't think that deal was cut beforehand? Now, I know there's some people who are saying that, Roland, it doesn't matter. All of that is wrong. It doesn't matter. It's unfair because Biden kept telling us he was never going to pardon him. Okay, if you actually believe that, you're crazy. You're crazy. Believing Biden was never going to pardon Hunter, it's like believing that Donald Trump supports ethics in government. I never for a second thought that Biden was not going to pardon his son. He always was. And if you had presidential pardon power, you would have done the same. So let me pivot now to these. You know what? But hold on. Before I pivot to that, let me also say this. I really wish Meghan McCain would shut the hell up. For somebody who is a nepotism queen, who literally should have tattooed on her forehead, my father, my father, my father, my father, my father. That's how Meghan McCain is even known by the public. Meghan McCain has no discernible skill set whatsoever. She's gotten every single media job. Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, I think she's at CNN, ABC, all these jobs, radio show, these other networks she worked for, because your last name is McCain and John McCain was your father. This idiot literally put this tweet out. No one is above the law except the president's Nepo baby is a hell of a parting message for Democrats. You literally are the queen of nepotism. So shut the hell up, Meghan. Jeez. So let me deal with the hypocrites. The Republicans say, oh, I don't want to hear anyone complain what Trump does. The same guy who promised to pardon all January 6th insurrectionists, and America say, yeah, we're good. This notion that what Biden did somehow is going to pave the way for Trump to abuse the pardon system when we know that they were selling pardons. We have Rudy Giuliani on record trying to hit somebody up for $2 million for pardons. They were selling pardons. So can we please stop this nonsense about, oh my God, because Biden did this is somehow going to embolden Trump. That thug Trump was always going to abuse pardons like he did before. So let me deal with these weak, ass, impotent, sorry, pathetic, trifling ass Democrats. Seriously, shut the hell up. This is not right, this is not who we are. Yeah. President Bill Clinton, didn't he pardon his brother-in-law? Didn't Jimmy Carter pardon his brother? Haven't they pardoned donors and other people? So this notion that, oh my God, this is just going to be the end of us. No, it's not. You've always had controversial pardons, and you always will. But the thing that gets me the most is, it's also how these Democrats want to act as if their counterparts wouldn't do the same. This is why I always say Democrats have no understanding of how to win. They have no idea how to win. You want to hear a whiner? How about West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin? Okay, how long has he been on the take from coal companies? Listen to this.
As a father, I don't know of a father that wouldn't have done the same thing. What I would have done differently, my recommendation as a counsel would have been, why don't you go ahead and pardon Donald Trump for all his charges and make it, it had gone down a lot more balanced, if you will. I'm just saying, wipe them out.
What do you think this does for his legacy?
I don't know. From that standpoint, it makes it difficult.
So last night, Chris Cuomo and Stephen A. Smith said the exact same thing, pardon Trump. Listen to this bullshit.
You know what else Biden should do? And I know people are going to get upset about this, but just think about it before you go crazy on me. Not you,
Sure.
everybody else. If I were he, I would pardon Trump.
You know something? Honestly,
I would say
honestly,
this
as
has gotta
crazy as
stop.
this sounds, Chris,
I'd pardon.
Chris, that's exactly what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. Enough's enough. You know what? You're the Democrats. You lost the election. You got your butt whipped. You couldn't prevent him from going back to the White House. More than a dozen cases have been dropped against him. The cases that have been ruled against him, he's going to appeal, and he'll probably get off from having to deal with all of that. It's time to move forward. You want to get at Trump, sit back and judge what he does. Guess what? You got a midterm election in 2 years. Are you going to be ready if you're the Democratic Party? You should be. You know, he's going to be the presidency for 4 years. You're going to be able to judge every single act that he does. March forward, move forward. You know, Gerald Ford could have let Nixon suffer. You got to say he didn't let that happen. Why? Because it was for the good of the country. The whole hanging Chads issue in 2000 between George W. Bush and Al Gore. Gore could have dragged it on. He didn't. It was for the better of the country. And a lot of times these folks speak about this stuff, but they don't do what they say they're going to do and what they implore others to do, which is where the disgust elevates exponentially for Washington, D.C., because we know they're full of it most of the time. And today was the latest example of that.
All right, so listen, Chris and Stephen A., nice guys. But I'm sorry, Stephen A., what he just said is, he don't know what the hell he's talking about. No, I'm just being straight up. I just got to call it like I see it. First of all, Al Gore could not have fought the hanging Chad case because the Supreme Court ruled. They ruled. The Supreme Court, Stephen A., ordered the stopping of the counting in Florida. That was it. You can't go higher than the Supreme Court. So that's just simply not true. Then when you talk about Gerald Ford, that was one of the reasons why Gerald Ford couldn't beat Jimmy Carter, because people were pissed off that he gave Nixon a pardon. Yep. Go back and check. Now, there are consequences to the good of the nation. That's exactly what happened. People wanted wanted Richard Nixon to pay for his crimes. And by Gerald Ford giving him a pardon, guess what? That immediately doomed him from winning in 1976. But let me remind Stephen A., Chris Cuomo, Joe Manchin of several different things. Donald Trump, Stephen A. said 12 cases have been dropped. No, they haven't. The Georgia case hasn't been dropped. The New York cases have not been dropped. Okay? They've been postponed. Not dropped. The only reason the federal cases were dropped, and he asked for it to be done with prejudice, meaning it can be reinstated once Trump leaves. So we need to get facts straight here as to what happened. So this is precisely why Biden should never give Trump a pardon. And this is for Stephen A., Chris Cuomo, Joe Manchin, and anybody else. First and foremost, Donald Trump became the first occupant of the White House in American history to try to overturn the results of an election. That is the second most evil thing someone can do other than commit treason against the United States. In fact, if an individual sold U.S. secrets to China or Russia or some other country, what Trump did is actually even greater than what they did, because he was in the Oval Office. He literally tried to weaponize the nation to overthrow a democratically elected president. You don't get higher than that. That's one. Two, he was ordered to return classified documents. He said no. He defied his own attorneys in moving those classified documents. He enlisted support of his Mar-a-Lago staffers to move the documents and lied to his own attorneys about those documents. So no, Stephen A., no Chris Cuomo, no Joe Manchin or anyone else, hell no, you don't pardon Trump for what he did. You cannot compare the crimes that Donald Trump committed to what Hunter Biden did by filling out a form and evading taxes. Nah, you don't compare the two. And this nonsense about, oh, we've got to move on from this. How about this, Stephen A., Chris Cuomo, Joe Manchin? If the man would stop breaking laws, he wouldn't get prosecuted. Did he pimp out and misuse his charitable foundation? Yes. That's why it was ordered closed. Did he absolutely lie about the value of his own properties? Yes. That's why he was ordered to pay in the case of that Letitia James had against him, the civil case. Did he conceal payments to a porn star in order not to show them on FEC reports? Yes, 34 counts, he was found guilty. So can we please stop this? Oh, by the way, there was a negotiated deal with Hunter Biden. They were misdemeanors. You cannot compare a misdemeanor to felonies. Also, Hunter Biden, regular Joe citizen, compared to the occupant of the White House. There is no comparison between those two. But since we're on a pardon conversation, it's time for President Joe Biden, between now December 3rd and 11:59 a.m. on January 20th, to wake up and step the hell up. I'm waiting for him, and he should be partnering Marilyn Mosby for that BS conviction she got in Baltimore. He should give a pardon to former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. and his former wife Sandy Jackson. Why not? They served their time in prison. Give them a pardon. It can restore their law license. They can move on. There are a number of people, drug offenses should be pardoned. How about this here? There have been in 60 years, there were 3 federal executions. Donald Trump killed 13 people in 6 months. How about this, Joe? How about you commute all federal death penalty sentences to simply life in prison without parole? You can do that. As it stands right now, based upon the commutations and pardons that Biden has issued so far, he's going to be down as low as Nixon. He's not even close to where Obama was. Obama was far ahead of the 10 previous presidents. So, Biden, you should be doing a hell of a lot more with your pardon power beyond your son. But one person who no way in hell should get one of those is that asshole Donald J. Trump. Let's go to my panel. Joe, I want to start with you. You can take off on any one of those areas I just talked about.
Yeah, like you, I have a list of individuals and of categories that the Biden administration in these final days should consider. And I'm sure they have stacks of them on the desk and have staff who are going through them. And one of which I believe you covered on the show before is also pardoning posthumously Garvey. And that is something that has been in conversation in Black community and certainly been in conversation over the last few days following the news of Biden pardoning his son. And I would agree with you. I think definitely you cannot compare what the charges was, the misdemeanor charges of Hunter Biden to that of the former president. And one of also which not only, as you mentioned, the negotiated deal, but also someone taking responsibility for their part in moving things forward. And, I didn't believe he was going to pardon him, but I can certainly understand, given the circumstances that he believed have changed, making a different decision. I think at the beginning he shouldn't have said, "I absolutely won't." He should have just said, "We'll see." But we're past that now. But I do think there are a long list, and as you mentioned, he can catch up to Obama by doing a whole host of categories, including the federal marijuana charges, which I believe was done before, as well as some other individuals that the administration can go through. And I have hope that over the next couple of weeks, we'll begin to see more of that.
Larry,
I would also add,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, just before I forget. This point of how this will sully his legacy, I don't see that as an issue. Certainly, that is something that corporate media has taken on, because I've seen the headlines about that, and it seems everybody is going off of the same talking points regarding that. But in talking to, just from my cab driver to people on the street, everybody is like, "I would have done it a long time ago," right? So it's not like there is this nationwide consciousness that people are despondent about the Biden administration and about Biden specifically for doing this. Obviously, this is anecdotal, but there is no one clamoring except for, as you mentioned, people on the Hill or others who are discussing it as a talking point. But everybody else would do the same.
Harry, listen, I don't know a lot of people out there, and literally I have not had a ton of people emailing me, texting me going, "Man, it's a damn shame he get that pardon to Hunter Biden." Like, nobody.
Yeah, no, that's just real talk. So there are a couple things here, because this is an interesting issue for me. There's a lot of lazy analysis from the media, and it's not just the last few days, this topic, but generally the last several years. Once there's a narrative that sticks, whether it's this or the president, Biden is too old, once it sticks, they just run with it for several days and several weeks. And we've seen a ridiculous number of op-eds on this topic already. But I want people to have the same energy when it comes to the January 6th insurrectionists, when they get pardoned, because that's coming. So I want you to make sure we have the same level of scrutiny in the next couple of months when we see that happen. The other thing is, Roland, as it relates to what President Biden did, as a father, I understand. I do want to highlight what the Locks talked about: money, power, and respect, right? So we do have to talk about the proximity in terms of closeness to power. And so if you look at the history of some of the individuals, presidents you highlighted, family members get pardons. And once again, that's the proximity to power. So I also agree with Leader Jeffries, who I saw came out with a statement within the last hour, to what Joy talked about in terms of we need to also we need to have the same energy as it relates to those non-violent drug offenses, who are disproportionately Black folks. So I would expect President Biden to use that pen to address some of these disparities we see in terms of the way Black folks are, spend time incarcerated because of the way these policies are driven, and then in the way they're implemented as it relates to negatively impacting the Black community. I think the last point about this is that it's going to be a long 4 years, because if we're so focused on something like this that 99.9% of people would have done, then I'm curious, like I said, to see what the narrative is regarding to some of the pardons we will see over the next 4 years. What I'm quite sure will be outrageous, but many people will say, will pivot to, well, what about President Biden, what he did, pardoning his son? And it's generally, I think this speaks to a larger problem in terms of narrative, not only in the media, but how a system, and look, we talked about this, I'm a former congressional staffer, how the system is just broken. And we saw that a few weeks ago with the most recent election. And then overall, we're in for a long 4 years, as I said a few minutes ago. And I want people to keep the same energy over the next 4 years for some of the really outrageous things we're going to see.
Mustafa.
It goes back to what I've shared before with my grandma's quote, you have power unless you give it away. So if you've got power, you got to use it, because we already know when Donald Trump was in office, what was it, 237 clemencies, 94 commutations, and 143 pardons. So he had no problem in using that power in that moment. So, President Biden now has the opportunity to do some good before he leaves with a little less than 6 weeks to go. So, use your power to make sure, as you said, Sister Mosby, finally get some justice. Make sure that the folks who are part of that First Step Act of 2018 that didn't capture all those folks, who are nonviolent offenses, make sure that they finally get a chance to breathe some fresh air and be free. So use your power. Stop being scared and do what you feel in your heart is the right thing to do, and dole out some justice.
Well, it's just a trip listening to, especially a lot of these media people. I mean, Nate Silver. Oh my God, I will never vote Democrat after this. Shut your punk ass up. I mean, like literally, I wish these white media people would just shut up. I mean, Chuck Todd and Chris Cillizza, whatever the hell his name is, they're like, Biden running and these things happen. They just, first of all, they sound like a bunch of whiny ass people, okay, who are losing their shit. Does anybody remember a guy named Mark Rich? A rich dude who was the ex-husband of a big-time Democratic donor, and Bill Clinton pardoned him? I'm sorry, do you hear anybody saying, ooh, the legacy of Bill Clinton was totally sullied because of that one pardon? You can't even ask most people, if you said Mark Rich, they would think that's a character from a movie. That's how silly these Beltway people are. And I'm telling you, they get on my damn nerves. But yeah, they'll be justifying a bunch of actions of Trump. Well, see, where you go, because Biden did it. No. Let me remind people, Trump did some foul shit before Biden became president. So you can't act like it's Biden's fault. So I didn't want to hear all that whining and complaining.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free to download, free to use, next generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on StartEngine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.